Welcome to Mental Health Monday. My name is Mick Coyle. Coming up on the programme this week.
Because, it's in your pocket, people are turning to these in massive numbers. We will spend, in the UK alone, £2.3 billion on mental health apps. When we look at Gen Z and younger people, that's 42% of people are using AI to try to help with their mental health. That's quite shocking and quite astounding.
The home of the UK's conversation about mental health. Welcome to Mental Health Monday. Brilliant to have you with us. And today I've got a freebie for you. Absolutely free. An app that you can use that can help support your mental health. If you're struggling at the moment, it's there for you. If you're feeling absolutely fine, it's there for you. If you need to get maybe out of that funk you found yourself in, or you want to find out more information about a particular set of feelings that you've been having, or maybe you want to help and support a loved one, the Calm Zone app has been launched. Simon Gunning, the CEO of Calm, is on the programme today to tell us what it's all about. And there's a link to it in the podcast notes, so you can check it out for yourself on Android and on Apple. The Calm Zone app available now. Simon starts by talking about where we're at in 2026 when it comes to the UK state of mental health.
There's a lot of uncertainty everywhere. Inflation continues to be a concern for lots of people. That old chestnut of cost of living crisis. I don't know if you can sustain a crisis for quite as long as we've been talking about it, but certainly things aren't getting any cheaper. We run a helpline from 5 to midnight, 7 days a week, which is completely free to call, confidential, and really is a suicide prevention service for anybody that's worried about themselves or somebody else. And we are only seeing calls increase. The reasons for the calls to that helpline vary a great deal. Obviously, suicidal crisis is a very important one, but we continue to see people's uncertainty about the economy, people's uncertainty about world affairs being right up there. There is, if there's anything, there's kind of an anxiety epidemic at the moment, and it's not helped by events around the world. Also, a new year when we don't pay any notice of the whole Blue Monday nonsense, because that was made up by holiday companies to try to get you to book your holiday early. But as we come out of Christmas through January, it's bleak, it's cold, and the visits to our website, the use of our helpline continues to rise pretty much every year through this period, but we're seeing it especially so this year.
In terms of people who are out there looking for help and support, many people will turn to their search engines, and with that, they'll get results which will offer them web articles, but there'll also be mental health apps that will appear, and just in the last sort of 6 to 12 months, we've seen much more in regard to these AI chatbots, which in terms of their scientific basis maybe aren't offering you a bespoke scientific service by the very nature of how they respond to their person. I just wondered what you were seeing and hearing from that space, and whether or not maybe there were potential risks that people might face from leaning too heavily into these things when you don't necessarily know where their information or advice is coming from.
Yeah, you almost sort of yearn for the good old days of a simple Google search where people could just kind of come to their own conclusions about other articles and websites and stuff. AI has a dangerous tendency to try to reassert what people are saying to it. Yeah, it's a quirk, but it does form a dangerous way of trying to help people tackle things like anxiety, stress, depression. We just carried out some research with a company called Censuswide that shows that 20 million people in the UK, so that's nearly a third of the population, are feeling abandoned by mental health services. I mean, there's 2 million people on the waiting list for mental health support. That's according to Mind. And yeah, you're right, Mick. People are turning to technology. We know that in 2026, 25% of Brits will use AI for mental health. That's the same as in 2025. If anything, it will go up. And actually, when we look at Gen Z, whichever you prefer, and millennials, so younger people, that's 42% of people are using AI to try to help with their mental health. And it is a big concern for us because it is, as you say, unregulated. But everything that we do in responsible organizations like Calm do is We work with clinical advisory boards. We draw on massive amounts of experience, and it's subtle. An algorithm ain't going to do it. And there are a lot of work goes into making people feel better about themselves and the world, and especially around suicide prevention. Actually, 1 in 4, almost 23%, are relying on apps. So despite the potential for the services to have zero scientific support, I mean, quite a lot of them are just all about the vibes, and a quarter of people, because it's in your pocket. It's I guess a doctor, a counselor, a friend you can carry around with you all the time. People are turning to these in massive numbers. In 2026, it's estimated that we will spend in the UK alone 2.3 billion pounds on mental health apps for our smartphones. That's quite shocking and quite astounding that people are not feeling support elsewhere, and so they're turning to technology in such huge numbers.
What are the sort of things that you're hearing, Simon, in regard to the quality of advice which is coming back from these AI chatbots, in terms of whether or not people are finding it useful, or whether or not potentially there might be something harmful there because it doesn't come with that regulation?
There is potential. I think probably rather than harm, which is what we have seen a lot with AI, by the way, with ChatGPT, for example. We've seen really frightening things that can be harmful, where ChatGPT has encouraged people to take their own lives. I mean, and I'm not saying that blithely or with any form of kind of frivolity about it. It's very bad. However, when we come to apps which have all been approved by either Google Play or by the Apple App Store, I'm not sure how much harm can be done. But what I am sure is that there's a lot of doubt about how much real good can be done until, that is, you hit the paywall. So there are responsible apps out there, a lot of them, but they cost a lot of money. So if there's one thing that we know apps are causing damage to, it's people's wallet, because there's a number of the apps, which I won't mention, which people know probably are going to cost you 50, 60 quid a year. And whilst it's in no way a substitute for example, seeing a GP, or if for those that can afford it or are lucky enough to be able to go and see a therapist or a counsellor, it is no substitution. But they are so often not based in scientific fact. Little exercises, little things to do that aren't really going to help in the long run.
What is it that's missing then from these services, which means that people should be able to get some help, and actually can get some help which comes to them in a measurable way and in a meaningful way?
Well, as a suicide prevention organisation, we completely not only recognise but completely embrace the fact that suicide prevention is a big old job. So for anybody that gets to a point of suicidal crisis, there is no one and done. We have to stay with people. We have to prevent them, even if they may be feeling better, from getting back to a point of crisis. So suicide prevention is hard. Stopping people getting to that point of suicidal crisis is just as hard. And daily maintenance for all of us, our brains, Mick, I know yours is overspec. We run these incredibly big machines between our ears, and actually something like anxiety, maybe that's not a sign of things going wrong. That's just a sign that you're human, right? There's so much to deal with. So working every day with our own brains is a really, really important and great thing we can do to prevent ourselves getting to a point where we might be in real trouble. It's like exercise, isn't it? You don't wait until you can barely move before you start trying to keep yourself mobile. You do that all the time, and we should do the same. So that part of the survey that we've been running have shown that the cost for people of poor mental health is increasing dramatically. Like 53% of people in the UK have reported that they are, from this recent work that we've done, are missing out on a major life event. So like a 24% of people in the UK that we asked have turned down catch-ups with friends because of poor mental health. A fifth, this was one that really came up to me and made me feel very sad, is 20% of people have reported that they have been unable to leave the house because their mental health is causing them some such problems. We believe that it should be a right to good mental health. It shouldn't be a privilege.
And it's interesting there that the findings of the survey, what they show are not just how people are feeling, but they show you the consequences of how they're feeling, missing out on opportunities, turning, their backs on things that they would normally do but no longer can do. And that's important to register and recognize, isn't it? That it's not just about stats and diagnoses numbers, it's about consequences.
Yeah, and so relatable, because I think probably all of us have had those moments where if we can diagnose, we can pathologize, we can say, due to my poor mental health, I did not do this thing. But I think really the work that we've done in understanding people's behaviors and habits, we don't need to use that kind of language. We can all relate, I think, to when you're struggling with life, when stuff is getting you down, you're going to miss out on the parts of life which are going to get you out of that trouble. So many people are missing out on, as you say, job interviews, catching up with people, but also big major life events. So things people are missing out on weddings, on birthdays, on the kind of stuff that's meant to make you feel good.
It reminds me of that sort of situation, and I think everyone can relate to this, whereby you might have a friend who often will say, yeah, I'll be available, but when it comes down to it, there's that sort of like excuse that comes to the fore, and sometimes there's the subsidiary WhatsApp group which doesn't have them involved in it because you have to sometimes make other plans without them. I think we've all got a friend, or maybe even a bit ourselves, have been that person in that group, but we've got to take steps positively in that space. What is the right thing to do you think, in those circumstances when you have got a mate who maybe doesn't respond in the same way, or predictably pulls out at the last minute? Because engaging them in that conversation and speaking to them presumably provides them with an opportunity to open up.
It's a funny thing you mentioned subgroups. I didn't know that was a massively common thing, but I'm in subgroups, and exactly for that reason, where one of us, in fact, one group that I'm in has got 3 subgroups where we've been worried about one of the other people in the group, and that leaning in for the people that you care about is such a beautiful and positive thing you can do with your own life. We are successful and we've got these big brains because we're pack animals, because we work in groups. We can bring down the big animal, we can defend the cave, we can do all those kinds of things. What I would really encourage people to do, if they are worried about their friend, lean in. You will get some of those good brain chemicals too. That we are designed to look after each other. That is what we're here to do. And when we do so, we feel good about ourselves. So really, I mean, I can talk about Calm, referenced our helpline for people. There is no shame in talking to somebody when you need help. It doesn't make you broken, it makes you human. And so doing that, pointing people to things like the Calm helpline, but also just being there. Just letting people know, that if a pint is your thing, that you're available for a pint if they need it. It makes us feel good when we provide the help. And also, we know that when we're in these lovely WhatsApp groups, for example, I wonder, am I the subject of a subgroup somewhere? Maybe, but maybe one of my friendships groups has been worried about me at some point. I had major life changes in 2025, and I separated from my wife and stuff. And I like to hope that there might be a subgroup somewhere with people just saying, let's take Gunning out for a pint and cheer him up.
Now, Simon, I appreciate your honesty, be so open about your own journey there. We've talked a lot about the apps that are out there, maybe some of the problems, but you guys are kind of stepping up in this space with a new Calm Zone app, which we've talked about maybe the issues of some of the services that are out there. This is designed to be scientifically backed and to really help people out, and also, quite importantly, to be free as well.
Yeah, it really is. So I mentioned our helpline, and that's kind of the most tangible output that we have, but that really is a suicide prevention hotline. And what we want to make sure we're able to do is provide help for everybody that needs it. So a digital tool is the way to do that, and that we can theoretically help everyone in the UK at the same time with an app. So we started working on this 2-3 years ago, looking for a digital product that we would be able to give to people to help them maintain their mental health and prevent them slipping towards any point of crisis. So it was so important to us that anything that we made was completely science-backed, that it was created by experts, and it uses really proven methodologies that our clinical board, our services team would really get behind. So the app is called Calm Zone. CALMZONE. It's available on Android and iOS, on Apple and Google. It uses really well worked out scientific methods, cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, acceptance and commitment therapy, as well as lots of other evidence-based approaches, including things like mindfulness and meditation and the sort of stuff that you can really use to maintain your happiness, your mental health. It's expert created. All of the resources that you'll see on our app have been created by experts such as therapists and medical professionals, and it's science-backed. So it was shaped right from the start by clinical input and research and extensive user testing. The research actually used over 5,000 separate members of the public in a randomized controlled trial, which was run by the University of Oxford. So this is a real thing, and it's made for real life. This isn't, it's not about the vibes, Mick. It's about real solutions, scientific, and yet very accessible. So it's designed, Calm Zone is designed to help people face that tough stuff. So in ways that you find manageable, really accessible. From things like panic attacks to learning how to reset after a bad day, you know, the kind of stuff that we all experience. But really importantly for us, this is a product which actually was incredibly kindly has been was a number of months ago gifted to us, and we rebuilt it from the bottom up. It was previously, you know, an earlier iteration known as MindEase. It was being charged out at £50 a year, which is about the going rate for all of these kinds of apps. This one, ours, however, Calm Zone, is completely scientific, as mentioned, and really importantly, it will be free forever, because we feel that good mental health shouldn't be a luxury. It should be for everybody. And so we will make this commitment right now. We will never charge for a single element of Calm Zone. We want to give it to the world. We want as many people to have it, to use it, to share it, and to enjoy it as we possibly can.
You mentioned there some of the circumstances that people might be in when they go to download this app. In terms of those entry points, if you like, what are those moments that people need to bear in mind and then think, actually, this app might be good for me? Is there something where we don't want to have people waiting until there's a crisis, but at the same time, sometimes if you're feeling good, you don't necessarily feel the need to have these things, but it's important, isn't it, to sort of have it there as a tool so that when you do need it, it's all there and ready to go?
I would say being alive. That would be the entry level. I mean, it's who of us doesn't find life a struggle on occasion, and because these are daily exercises, and you can tell the app how you're feeling, what you're struggling with, and we will deliver the right services to you, the right kind of activities. These are about maintenance. They're about making your brain feel good. They're about getting those good chemicals going. So really, it isn't a matter of waiting until you've had a bad time. Those exercises each day will maintain your good mental health, your mental strength, your resilience, your ability to view the future as being potentially better than the present and the past. So don't leave it. Start using it now. Start thinking about it as a part of your daily routine, as you would with physical exercise, I'm sure. Don't wait until stuff gets bad. This app is there to prevent that happening as far as it possibly can. Where we can't, obviously, formal medical health care is absolutely brilliant.
And I'm sure that if people want to read your data policy, they can do so online. But will it be helpful for you to see potential trends in maybe over the course of a year that people raise certain issues, or that particular things emerge in certain times, so that you can sort of tailor your response appropriately, knowing that there might be an increased demand for a particular service at a particular time of year?
Yeah, there are a number of things which are really going to be useful for us. One is going to be to really measure how people's happiness improves when they're using the app, because there's a lot of check-in. So that's going to be really helpful for us to then continue to develop the app in ways which will make it better. All the data is anonymized, so nobody needs fear that anything would be disclosed to anybody. But yeah, as you say, just as we look at our the Calm helpline, and we can start to understand what is troubling the nation, yeah, with this too, we can start to see what people are using, what's working for them, and why they're coming to our services in the first place.
Simon, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I'll make sure there's a link to the app in the podcast notes so people can check that out. And yeah, as ever, it's a real pleasure to spend some time with you and to hear about some fantastic work as ever from the campaign against living miserably. The Calm Zone and links to the new app are in the podcast notes.
I hope you've enjoyed this week's podcast. Thanks for checking out Mental Health Monday. My name is Mick Coyle. You can find me on Twitter at Mr. Mick Coyle. You can also find me, Mick Coyle, on Facebook as well. Don't forget, if you want to speak to somebody about your mental health, you can do so. The Samaritans, free to call on 116 123. You can find mental health services where you are. Just look for the Hub of Hope. Type in your postcode. It'll find those mental health services close to you. And for support in a crisis, you can text SHOUT to 85258. That's if you're experiencing a personal crisis and you're unable to cope and need support. Shout to 85258. That's a text line. Do get involved in those services. In an absolute emergency, always remember the number to call is 999. Thanks for downloading the podcast this week. We'll be back next week with more Mental Health Monday.